So in this video we are going to learn how to use JavaScript promises. Now when it comes to JavaScript promises, it's good for you to understand the following thing. A producing code is a code that can take some time. So then we have the consuming code. The consuming code is a code that must wait for the result. So a promise is an object that links producing code and a consuming code. So relating this with an illustration, real life illustration. So let's say your uncle promised you that your next school fees, or yes, your next school fees, I'm going to pay it for you if I receive my pension. So that is it is conditional. So if the pension comes, it's going to assist you for that year to pay your school fees, if it is, or for that semester, or for that term. So the promise usually takes time, so it can take at least a day or some hours to fulfill. Some of them can take months or years to fulfill, but the bottom line is that a promise takes time. So the person that has to fulfill the promise is the producing code. So it's a code that takes time. Then the person that must wait for the promise to be fulfilled, which is you, is the consuming code. So a promise. So if you want JavaScript to wait, now you recall that in the last video about the set timeout and the set interval, JavaScript does not wait for them. It rather it skips them and moves to the next things that are available. Then when it has finished doing executing other codes, then to now come back to them, or as it's executing other code, is also checking when their time will reach, and as that time reach and is not done executing other code, it will just execute that one and continue with the rest. So you see, JavaScript does not have to wait for them until their time elapses. So but if you want JavaScript to wait for a code to run, so it must wait first until after this promise is fulfilled, then before it will do other things. Then you have to use the promise class, or how to use the promise. So the promise takes time to execute, so you have to wait a little. For example, when requesting blog posts from a backend, so that is a nice example. Then to create a promise, this is the syntax when you're using arrow function. No, not arrow function. Okay, yes. Okay, just store it in a variable. Okay, so this is the syntax, but I'll use arrow function for my own. So you have this. So we have let my promise be equal to new promise. So from our classes so far, or the video so far, you know that this new promise is a class, and everything that we do inside this class will be saved inside this object. So new promise, then you accept a function, my resolve, my reject. So this my resolve is used when the promise is fulfilled, is successful. Then this reject if it's successful, and you return that. So using a promise, so when you're using a promise, then and catch or try and catch is used in order to tell JavaScript, say please wait for this code to run before you continue whatever thing you're doing. So for try and catch, you must use async and await. And I also found out that for this vanilla thing, for the then and catch, you can also add the async, and it will work the way is expected. So let's try this out. So let's create a promise function. So promise is a function that takes time, so it's not as fast as the normal function we create. So I will have so what do we call this? Promise function. So let get blog, so let's use get blog, be equal to an arrow function, then we'll add our new promise. Remember the syntax we just saw from the slide. Then it accepts a function, then I usually use accept and reject. So whatever variable you choose to use is up to you, but what you have to remember that is that the first one is when it is true, the second one is when it is false. So I'll use a set timeout here so that it will take some time. Equal to then this. Then I want to put set timeout to 2 seconds. Times 2. So I'll put a consider log. So I don't want to put a consider log here, so what I'll just put is accept blogs. So I just put an mtr and empty array there, so it will accept that. So this is it. So how do I tell JavaScript now to wait for this code to run? So I'm going to put a consider log before promise, then I'll put another one after promise. So I'm going to put this code now between. So one of the ways to tell JavaScript to wait for you is to use the then and catch. So I'll put async, then I'll put get blog, then I'll put my parentheses, then we'll have dot then. So this won't work unless it's in a function, so let's move that dot then. So remember the dot then, which is the response runs. So this is like if it runs if the condition is true. So I'll put consider log response, then the catch runs if there's an error. So consider log error, then I can change here to error side to log the error better. So let's try this and see if it will show us before promise, then it will show us this empty array, then show us after promise. So if it runs in that order, then we know that everything has worked fine. So now you notice. So let's stop this our counter so that we'll have everything the way we want. So if I save that, so you notice I have my before promise, after promise, but the empty array comes after, not within, just the way we want. So a quick way to fix this is that this must run inside a function. So one way to do that is to use a nameless function that will just run. So this is how we do it. It's just a shortcut. So I'm going to now put here async. Then I'll paste the code and I'll put async here. I think let me try this. This should work. No idea how to put await here. No, it's not working. Async. Okay, so let's try the try and catch, or let me use data method. So I'll put this function. So I'll use another function to do this. So I'll put just any other function. So function A, for example. Then inside this function, I put my async. Then I'll use my let me use try and catch. So for now, I want to use let blogs be equal to await dot get blog. So what I want to do now is to also move these two guys up. So this one is going to show before blog. This one is going to show after blog. So I want it to show like this. Then I want just show console.log blogs. So let's see how it. So it's not going to run because I've not invoked that function. So let me now come down and put a just like that and see if it's going to run. So what is happening is, yes, it's work. It worked now. So you see, before promise, this, and after promise. So it's working the way it should work. So if I close this other timeout, where is it? This one here. it's going to be more clear. So that is it. So we have, so you see, before promise, so then this loaded new content, then we now have after the promise. So this has worked. This has worked. So let's try to see if the then and catch on work. If it doesn't work, we'll leave it like that. So let's see the get blocks dot then, not that, response consider log resp then dot catch then consider log error. So put here error 2. So if I copy this, Ctrl C, so this is going to be before the promise, there is an error. Okay, listen, I commented out. Then this is going to be after the promise. So let's test this if it's going to work the way it should. No, I think for my practice I added async here. I don't know why it does that. I'll wait. Oh. So I think it will work now. So it does. So that is it. So I don't know why it's working like this, but I know in React and in Node.js I don't need to put this for it to work. So that is vanilla for you. So it has worked. So you see that using a promise now, we can tell JavaScript to wait for the code. So if I increase the promise here or the time here to 20 seconds, so it's going to wait for it until after 20 seconds. So you see, before the promise, so it's after 20 seconds, that is going to now run this after the promise I seen. So it will wait for that time. You see, now after the promise. So that is it for JavaScript promises. So we use it to tell JavaScript to wait for a code. So in the next video, we are going to see how we can use what we have learned so far, including some CSS, to create an alert, a confirm, and a prompt, then how to show spinner and a model, and we'll end the video for this week. So let's do that.